Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
What is the craziest vacation you've ever had? This is Systematic Geekology. We are the priest of the geeks. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Schaeffer, here with my fellow geekologists, Liz, aka Pang. Liz, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. For a Monday, it's not bad. I'm a little tired, but I had a really good weekend, so it was good. But I did the topic we're discussing today. I watched the season finale last night and then went to bed, which may or may not have been the best choice because I had so many thoughts going, coming out of the finale, and I'm like, I should have processed it more. But yeah. So I've been aside from working today, I've been reading all the afterthoughts and reviews and analysis. So I'm very excited to talk about this one today. But which brings it to, this episode, we are discussing The White Lotus, which is the hit HBO Max original series that just ended its third season. The season finale was last night as of this recording. So Liz and I are fans of the show. I don't know who else of the Systematic Geekology crew is, but when we found out we were both fans, we're like, we got to talk about this show. So I'm very excited for it. But Liz, before we get into the main topic, what have you been geeking out on lately?
So random that I got into this anime and I got into it a little late, but I've been watching Dr. Stone and I didn't realize I would love it so much, but I'm obsessed with it and I'm almost caught up now with the whole show.
What's the premise?
So pretty much it's kind of like post-apocalyptic. So everyone got turned into stone. And so one high school genius somehow got revived. And so he had to figure out how he got revived. And now he's trying to bring the world into modern day science. And so obviously there's a reason why everyone got turned to stone. So he, tries to search for the truth and, get everyone out of the Stone Age because everyone is stone.
Oh, interesting. I love the title too. That sounds
well, and I thought it was like something just dumb, but like Taylor loves to have me do like anime quizzes on YouTube because I just know so many anime and I get like 90% of them right. But like Dr. Stone was one of those ones I could never obviously pinpoint. It would be like, guess this anime after like a 1 second clip. And I always got Dr. Stone wrong because I've never seen it. So I was like, I'm going to do it now. And I love it.
Nice.
It's on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. That sounds good. Yeah, what I've been geeking out on, I know you're not as big into superheroes, but this one you might actually like because it's very anime influenced, and the style is almost, it's called My Adventures with Superman, which is on Max, which me, Christian, and Will did a full episode on it last year, and on that, and also a Batman animated series. But I've been rewatching My Adventures with Superman, especially getting ready for the Superman movie. And it is so delightful. You can go back to that episode and get a more detailed description, but it's basically Clark, Lois, and Jimmy as interns of the Daily Planet, and Clark in his early days as Superman. And so it kind of does other kind of reimaginings of iconic characters and villains. But especially the relationship between the three of them is what really is the bread and butter of the show. It's just so delightful. The animation is spectacular. And again, it's very anime influenced. So you might like it just for the animation style alone. And the characters. It feels like, it's very obviously a superhero show, but it also could fit into the same realm of Last Airbender, or so I obviously Last Airbender isn't an anime, but another anime influenced cartoon.
Right.
It's a delightful show. I cannot recommend it enough to whether you're a diehard Superman fan or not. I'm thoroughly enjoying rewatching, because when I watched it the first time, I was doing an episode at a time. So now going back to be able to binge it and being able to not have to pay attention so closely to what's happening, but just like I know the big points, and now I'm just enjoying it on a rewatch. So that is a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, that one. I mean, maybe one day I'll like watch it, but it probably won't get on my radar.
No, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
It is very but I do like the kind of gaps it had, like the different audiences it can reach, because it can reach anime fans, it can reach comic book fans, it can reach DC fans. And I think like others will have enjoyment, but I know you watch so much anime, it's hard to like prioritize, but if you do ever get around to it, I would be really interested in your take on it. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, sweet. Awesome. Well, getting into the main topic here. So we are discussing The White Lotus, which again just completed its season 3 on HBO. And this is a series that premiered, I believe, in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check on that. I know it was like, in the wake of COVID. But Liz, to start off, if you had to give someone an elevator pitch of what this show is about, how would you describe it?
Rich people get woke.
That's kind of a brilliant one-liner there.
Thank you very much.
Because I was trying to describe it to a friend a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, horrible rich people go on vacation for a week and someone dies at the end, but that's really only scratching the surface of it.
Yes.
But it is, because I love your description, because it is really this fusion of ideas. You think you're going to go in and just 100% hate all these characters. And you do, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of despicable ones, but the really brilliant thing about this show is the way it satirizes themes of class, social dynamics, money, and power, and fleshes out these characters to where none of them are one note. Even the ones who are inherently despicable, they still have rich backstories and rich characterization, thanks to creator Mike White. We'll get into that and just how the writing is, but yeah, and also that, someone dies at the end of the week because, so we're going to do, the way that we're going to do this episode is we'll talk a little bit at the beginning, just kind of a general overview. So if you've not watched The White Lotus, this might incentivize you to. So we'll talk about it kind of in general terms for a bit. Then we will get into spoilers, particularly about this season. So you'll have that opportunity if you want to listen for a bit and then pause it, go watch the show, and then come back. But if you are a fan of the show, bear with us for a little bit, as you'll probably already know the basics at the beginning here. But yeah, the central concept of The White Lotus is that a group of characters in each season are staying at this luxurious resort, and the White Lotus is the hotel suite so each season takes place at a different White Lotus resort. The first season is in Hawaii, the second is in Sicily, and the one that just ended is in Thailand. And you meet this cast of characters in each season. The majority of them are rich, elite, upper class, and you get a few characters who are kind of outside that dynamic, that world. But for the most part, it is these rich, again, really despicable, people you zero in on and spend time with for a week. But the other element of it is that in each season, you know that someone will be murdered by the end of the week. Each season starts off with a flash forward scene where we don't know who or even how many people will be dead, but we know that there is going to be a murder take place of some kind. And so as you're watching each season, that is the question in the back of your mind. But what I really love about the show is that while the murder mystery element is a central component, it's more about the character dynamics and satirizing, like I said, money, class, power, all these themes, and really gazing into the lives of these people for a week and learning about them. Liz, what was your background on the show? Were you watching pretty much from the beginning, or when did you start?
So I started with season 3. So that's kind of like a fun thing with the White Lotus. You do not have to watch the first 2 seasons to appreciate the third one. Now, if you did watch season 2 from, I watched it with my husband and my housemate has watched the other 2. So he was able to fill us in. Like, so they'll like not recycle, but like reuse characters from like the previous seasons to go into the other one. So it doesn't really like do any like affect the plot or the storylines. It's kind of nice if you did watch last season, you get to see maybe another character that you appreciate, and they're still a part of the story, just a different way in the story. So it's kind of fun.
Here at Systematic Geekology, we believe in a few things. We believe that there is freedom in Christ to like what you like. We believe that Christian nationalism is a heresy. And probably most important that I'm going to talk about today, at least, is that we believe the best place to spend your extra cash is on the Systematic Geekology merch store. That's right. This is a shameless shill for our own products. We go through Creator Spring, and we have a few great products on there. Me personally, I'm a big like black shirt kind of guy, muted colors. But there's nothing better to like throw a little something extra on there with like a black baseball cap, the dad hat with the Systematic Geekology logo on it. That's a classic. I just really think if you got a couple, $30 extra, that's for us.
Exactly. Like there is an overarching narrative, but it is mostly an anthology series in that the main cast in each season is different. And like I said, the location is different. But yeah, there's one character who has appeared in all 3 seasons, played by John Grease, who is, fun fact, was Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. I love when people learned that, and I see that meme pop up regularly. It's like, oh, this is what Uncle Rico is the villain now. So he has a really interesting storyline. And then also in season 3, one of the main cast members, Belinda, was a central character in season 1 because she's an employee of the White Lotus. And so she works at the Hawaii location in the first season, and then is sort of on part vacation, part work trip in this season. And then there is one other character who is in the first 2 seasons. But for the most, like you said, and you're not the only one I know who just went ahead and started with season 3, because I think as the show has grown in popularity, more people have jumped onto it. But then like when season 3 was on, people were like, well, I don't know if I have time to go back and watch the first 2 seasons, but if this is one I can kind of jump on, I'll watch this season. And if I like it, I'll go back and watch the other 2. So I know people who are doing that. And for me, I had the show recommended to me after the first season had completed. And so I binged that first season. I got really hooked on it. I think so. I watched that over the course of a week. Let's see, that was like maybe 3 years ago, I think. And I really enjoyed it. It was a friend who is a big TV buff and particularly murder mysteries, but he was the one who told me that while there is a murder mystery element to this show, it's not the defining feature because, like I said, it's more a character study and a social satire. And so that really appealed to me. So I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. I like season 2 even more, and that seasons 2 and 3 I was able to watch as the episodes aired, which was really fun. And I think it was especially important to do that with season 3 because, I mean, already from the official White Lotus account and so many others, like the spoilers have been rampant after each episode. So you kind of have to watch it right as it airs if you do want to be really plugged into it. So I have been able to watch seasons 2 and 3 as they've aired. But yeah, so I have been on the show for a few years now. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would say so far season 2 is my favorite. Season 3 we'll get into more in a bit. It does have some of my favorite moments and scenes and a few favorite characters. But I think season 2 for me is the strongest overall. But Liz, going back to, like, especially your line of like rich people get woke. What are some of your favorite elements of the show that enticed you to get into it and keep watching?
The only enticing thing that had me keeping watching was I was watching it with people. So like it was already on in my house. as we kind of talked about earlier, I'm a kind of a one flavor type of girl. So White Lotus is not in my flavor wheel. I still enjoyed it greatly. It wasn't like miserable watching it, but it was still, not something I probably would have kept up with. Probably my favorite group, because these White Lotus, it had about maybe like 4 different groups of people we were following. I really enjoyed the 3 girls, because like being like a female and stuff like that, and having a healthy, like close friends and stuff, it was just really funny watching them be fake nice to each other and so happy for each other. And I'm like, you guys are like the fakest things I've ever seen. What the heck? And it was quite entertaining, because I'm like, it's lies. What are you saying? And then I really enjoyed, so they had a family, as you know, from North Carolina, like this rich family, and with these awful like Southern like draws. And because you're from North Carolina, right?
Oh yeah,
Kevin?
and then
So
like
probably,
I am, and so I'm not a Duke grad or anything, so I kind of like to think like this like really. I went to NC State, so like and my mom went to Carolina, so it was pretty funny that the ultra rich like kind of unlikable and very strange family was from Duke, but
right.
but yeah, so they referenced North Carolina multiple times with this family.
Yes. And so, which was crazy, because they were giving Charleston vibes.
Yes.
Not really Duke vibes. So, I mean, if you guys are from the Carolinas, you can kind of identify which region personality they came. And so I'm like, they should have been Charleston, but whatever. I mean, I'm glad they tarnished your state and not mine. But it was just it's crazy how they had 3 kids, and the one you thought was a tool, you ended up liking the most at the end. Just kind of how that played off.
And that's we will definitely get into the arcs there. I think that family in particular was fascinating, and it really did subvert your expectations of like who you hated at the beginning, and then who you actually came to. Even if you don't like love them, you come to understand them a little bit more, and then kind of despise the people that you initially liked. That's what I love about the show, is that it takes you on this whirlwind of a journey where it almost plays out in real time, because essentially, for the most part, they do change it some, but like for the most part, each episode, it kind of takes place over the course of a day at the hotel. So you get to see these scenes play out, like, except for this season, there was a 3-episode arc that really plays out over about 24 hours, because there was an episode that was building up to a big party and a big confrontation sequence, and then the confrontation of the party, and then the aftermath of that. So that played out. But for the most part, throughout the series, it's like you get, because it's about 8 episodes each season, and so you get each episode is like a day of the vacation that each character is on. So it's a really fascinating storytelling structure there. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit on something that really makes the show, is that you really become fascinated with these characters. And like you said, a character you were referring to, played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, who is just like, you think of in the first episode as just like a one-note, complete misogynistic, like horrible person. And to be fair, is not necessarily good, but you become a little more empathetic toward by the end of the season. And then his sister, for me, was the one you like at the beginning more.
And I hate her now.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. Yeah, no, it was a brilliant twist where like you think at the beginning she's going to be the one that's different from the rest of her family and wants to get away, and then they just like reverse that completely to reveal her true colors of like, oh, she's actually, as much as she says she wants to get away from the privileged lifestyle that she's been born into, she could not live without it, and is really. And I have to give I mean, there are so many cast members this season in particular I can just rave about, but Parker Posey, who plays the mother in this family, deserves such an Emmy for the humor, comedic timing of her delivery in every scene is absolutely brilliant. But in that scene at the end we are getting a little into spoilers now, but I think we'll transition now into getting more deeper into the season. So if you've not watched White Lotus yet, hopefully that gives you kind of a little bit of an overview. Go watch it and then come back to listen to the rest of this episode. But yeah, so with Piper, she has this arc of, she wanted to leave behind her family after she graduates college and spend a year in Thailand. So she had told her family that she was here for a research project, but in actuality, she came to learn about the monastery that is sort of connected to the hotel, and she wants to spend a year there after graduation and kind of go on the spiritual journey. And she has this, and then she spends one night there with her younger brother Lachlan, and hates it almost right away, and realizes that she actually can't get away. And like you said, you absolutely come to hate her by the end, because she gives this monologue where she's just like, there are people suffering in the world, and I wish I could do something about it, but I don't think I can leave the privileges of my lifestyle. And Parker Posey as Victoria, her mother, just has this moment of like, that's my girl, come in here. It is a brilliant piece of writing and acting right there. Even with the despicable characters, the themes here, I just love that the journey that Mike Waite takes you on. So you are initially empathetic toward her at the beginning of the season, and then by the end, you're like, oh yeah, no, she's like just like her family, if not worse. Whereas Saxon, again played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, is horrible, misogynistic, and like still has those attributes, but then you come to kind of see more complexity with him by the end of the season. And I don't know if I would necessarily say I root for him by the end, but I kind of want him to. I kind of think maybe he can change,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no. As soon as she was like, well, I lied because I wanted to do this monastery type deal, so there is no research paper. I'm like, you are just selfish and a little prick, and like, what the heck? So I hated her mid-season.
Oh yeah, no, very much so. And then Lachlan is just a very strange individual.
Lachlan, hate him too.
I did like as just like one of the most bizarre. Again, we're getting into spoilers here now, but it's very much. This is something that they didn't, despite the fact that seasons 1 and 2 do have a lot of sexual themes, and particularly season 2 revolves around sex and relationships. But this season introduced an incestuous plot line, which was kind of hinted at from the very beginning of the season and then played out more midway through. So I don't need to go into the gory details there, but it's not only that that is obviously despicable, but one of the things about Lachlan, another thing, like you said, that this is a show where it is enhanced by watching it with people. The first couple of seasons I watched by myself, but I got one of my caregivers hooked on it. So I was able to watch. We were able to watch the last few episodes together, and it was hilarious getting the interactions. But one of the things I remarked on last night watching the season finale is again, you're throughout the season you're wondering, who's going to die, who's going to be killed. And I kind of figured multiple characters would die in this season because it was kind of building up to that, and especially it's the third season, the trio was hinted at multiple times. But they pulled a really interesting twist here where you think Lachlan is going to die because his father, who is terrified of a financial devastation he's about to encounter and is about to lose everything, he contemplates not only killing himself but his family to spare them the pain of losing everything that they've worked to hold on to and the materialistic wealth that they've accumulated over the years. And he ultimately backs out at the last minute. But this is just like such a White Lotus thing where so the way he was going to do it was using a poisonous fruit that was on the hotel resort and blending it in with a pina colada and getting family members to drink that. And originally he was going to spare Lachlan because he has a scene where he asks him, would you live without material wealth and stuff? And Lachlan answers yes. And so he thinks he's the only one who could survive. And so he doesn't let him drink, but he has the other family members, but then he takes it away from them. But then Lachlan doesn't clean the blender that his father used to make the poisonous pina coladas. And so he unknowingly injects himself with poison the next morning when he's making a shake. And in this moment you think, oh, he's dead, and they make you think that he does. So instead, he has a very near-death experience and ends up waking up. But the thing I noted when I was watching this was the surprise of that twist, but also at the very end when the family is back on the boat and headed home, Lachlan's just looking at his phone, and I'm like, this guy has such a nonchalant reaction to a near-death experience. I was just like, what? I don't even know how to unpack this character. He's very detestable, but just so strange and very much a part of this universe is all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's also going back to since you jumped on with season 3 and you're watching with people, so kind of the basic premise, but were you very much invested in the murder mystery aspect, or were you more interested in just the character dynamics? Like, what was the main draw for you throughout the season?
So at the beginning, I was like, oh, I hope this one doesn't die. I hope this one doesn't die. But at the end, I was like, man, I want this one to die so bad. I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, they can all die, actually. If they all died, that's fine. Because at the beginning, all you hear is like, you see the guy. So, kind of one person who it isn't really, because the person who was working there / vacationing there, her son came so you could realize, and he was the one that was doing a session. And then he's trying to escape from gunfire, and you see a body floating face down. And so you can tell it's an Asian male. And so you're like, it's like, oh, so I thought for the longest time it was going to be the guard who died.
Right.
I forgot his name, but I was also okay with him dying. Guy
Talk. Yeah.
Guy Talk.
Yeah.
So I was okay with him dying. He did not die, which was unfortunate, because he was just a little wimp. And then I really wanted Mook to die, who is, what's her name? Blackpink, I think she was like the most famous person.
Wait, the Mook. Yeah.
Because she was just manipulative. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't really rooting for anyone. My husband was obsessed with Chelsea because he thought she was super precious.
I did love Chelsea. She was
a lot of people love Chelsea.
Hey guys, Christian here to talk about our YouTube page. That's where you can go find us at youtube.com/@Systematic Geekology. We have exclusive stuff there, exclusive videos where you can just hear other topics that you'll never hear on the podcast proper. These include things like comic book catch-up, where we're discussing the newest comics that we're reading, Friday Night Frights, where Joe Day and I explore a cryptozoological, paranormal, ufological item of discussion. Has a lot of good fun there. I have a lot of great times with him. We have spontaneous YouTube shorts that we decided to do a topic we wanted to discuss. They're in a very short form. We do them there as well. You can interact with us live as we're recording like a What's New episode or something like that. You have something you want to chime in? Well, how can you do it unless you head over to youtube.com/@Systematic Geekology. All right, guys. See ya.
And I think that's the strength of the show too, is like, not that, I mean, she was like a much more likable character, even though she had a questionable romantic choice, because I think Walton Goggins, who a huge shout out to Walton Goggins right now. I know there's a lot of hype about him right now because he's on The Righteous Gemstones, which Evan and I talked about recently on a What's News episode. And then he's in Fallout, and he's all over the place right now and is just a brilliant actor. But his character, specifically, as great as his performance is, his character is like, okay, Chelsea, you should probably get away from him. Like, it's not going to end well here. And sure enough, like, by staying with him and thinking that she can save him from his darker side proves to be, false. And they end up both getting killed in the finale, which is pretty heartbreaking. But no, I think one of the things that speaks to not just the writing, but the acting so much is, I think, with your husband there, it's like, you would just become so you're rooting for Chelsea so much, because I think this Amy Lou Wood's performance is so enamoring, and she is just like, oh, I just want her to be safe, like, please get away from these people and go live a happy life,
Yeah, she pretty much is like, I believe in love and faith and being a good person, and we're soulmates and all that stuff. So, which is crazy that she was one of the most normal ones, and then and then her boyfriend, her soulmate, he pretty much just has like this grudge. He's trying to find out who killed his father, and he thought like he's like, the owner's husband is the one who killed my father, but he wasn't in Thailand. He was in he was in Thailand. He was in, well, I guess Bangkok. Yeah, Bangkok is Thailand. But he was in another part. And so
right.
it was all her like, please don't do it. You need to let it go. You need to forgive. You need to blah, blah. So and that's just a whole nother side quest of what is the White Lotus, because then we travel with him to Bangkok and he meets a friend who became sober, but he's going to help trick the people, because he pretty much pretended to be this movie producer, agent or whatever, or know someone. And the owner, who's like this really sweet Asian woman, used to be in showbiz. So he's like manipulating her to try and get to her husband. And literally the scene whenever he first meets his friend, and the friend pretty much like, I'm sober now, I found religion. It was like he went into this monologue of how he realized all he wants to do is be like an Asian female getting screwed by this guy. And so much, I'm just like, it was so uncomfortable. And my husband and I were the type of people, so we just, because it's one of those things like, yes, we're pastors and stuff like that, but we don't like shield ourselves from everything. So whenever the inappropriate things came on TV, we just hit fast forward. You know what I mean? Because if you say, I'm not going to watch everything, that's not, you know what I mean? So we fast forward. And so like, there was quite a lot of scenes. We just went like, okay, fast forward. We don't want to see that, but it's there. But gosh, I would just love to see the bloopers of that conversation, because the things he was describing was so out of pocket. And it was honestly like hilarious, because he was like, and I just realized, he was like, I would pay a little Asian woman to watch pretty much him get screwed from behind by a dude, because I wanted to be the Asian woman. And the way he like said it and detailed with such a straight face, and the way the other actor just kind of like stared at him trying to listen, but not like offend him because he needed him, was like probably the funniest scene in the whole movie.
This was a show-stopping scene from the entire series that just I think got the people most talking. And well, first off, because you're watching that episode and you're like, oh well, it's Sam Rockwell, like, because Sam Rockwell never does TV. I mean, he does, and he's talked about that, he does like movies and plays, and so to forget him on a TV show at all is a big deal. And then, and part of it, like, although they said that Leslie Bibb, who is his partner, she plays one of the three women in this season. They're romantic partners. And so there were memes about that of like, oh, was he just like vacationing with her while she was working on the show and was like, hey, Mike, can you write me a part? But apparently Mike White had him in mind from the beginning for this role and was able to convince him to do it. But yeah, that monologue specifically, I was reading about it, and Sam Rockwell did extensive training with his acting coach for months just for that scene alone, because he knew it had to be delivered perfectly. And
it was done so well.
Oh my gosh. Like what that monologue is going to be used to get some kid into Juilliard one day. I mean, that, it's just, it is that iconic and then that well written, and it is it's bizarre, it's unsettling, and it's just perfectly delivered. And then when you have it juxtaposed with, like you said, Walton Goggins is just like mouth drop facial expressions. There were so many memes the next day, and still are, because it's just but brilliant scene all around. And so that's why for me, I think it is like a lot of those elements to me are even more interesting than the murder mystery. Like I'm still very much interested in like, okay, who is going to die? And like you said too, I'm like, okay, I like this character less and less. I want them to die. And if you can save this one, that would be great. But you also, okay, I do want to go back to Guy Talk for a minute, because this is something the show, I think it has really explored from the beginning, is the different sides of masculinity. So like you brought up, like with him, he's kind of a wimp and just like, overly sensitive, and like not just that, but not like willing to take action. Then you pair him with someone like Saxon, who again is the overly misogynistic, like it just like, full of himself kind of character. And so I like how it explores these different dynamics. And so for Guy Talk's journey, him being the one to kill Rick at the end was huge for him and totally unexpected, because he would be the last one you would expect to. I mean, he was someone he's a security guard at the hotel, but he couldn't even stop like an unarmed robbery early on or take any force there. So it's like, what is this guy doing in this role? And I didn't hate him. I think he was just like, yes, he could be more, firm and take action when needed. But he's also I kind of like am more empathetic to the more sensitive characters on the show, because they are surrounded by the more aggressive, toxic masculinity characters. So that was an interesting dynamic to explore, and to have him again make that decision at the end and be a huge momentum in his story arc was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that is getting into the characters, but I think this season by far has the most spiritual themes associated. I mean, it very much revolves around Eastern spirituality, Buddhism, religion, and the previous two seasons do touch on some of those themes a bit, but like season 1 is more focused on money and class. Season 2 is focused on sex, and then season 3 revolves around spirituality, meaning. So what was, I guess, like, was there any particular character storyline that resonated with you in a more spiritual sense of like their journey to find meaning? And what did you think of how it was handled?
Yeah, no, nothing resonated with me like that.
Yeah.
I appreciated so if it kind of alludes to season 2, so pretty much one of the characters in season 3, he was in season 2, and the person who died, I mean, if you guys haven't watched season 2, we already said spoilers, so turn it off now. But the person who died was his wife, and so he pretty much fled the area, and that's just from what I know. I didn't watch season 2. And so then the worker who was also in season 2 but now is getting training in season 3, like, she recognized him, and so he's like, trying to like keep her quiet. It was never proven that he killed his wife, but like he fled, and his wife was worth a lot of money, and so he offered her $100,000 to keep quiet so he can live a peaceful full life. And her son, who was like, "Mom, let's get more money." So he turned $100,000 into $5 million. So, I mean, that resonated with me because obviously I don't want to be an accomplice to a murder or anything like that, but I would love $5 million.
It's kind of like, that was the really interesting thing with Belinda is like, yes, it's definitely blood money. You know how horrible Gary Gregg is, but it's like you've been with this character from the beginning, and you really do want her to have just some stability and comfort for her life because her and her son have been through a lot. But what was really interesting there in the season finale, so Belinda has a love affair with one of the employees in the season, and it's a really sweet romance. There was that line where they're hooking up, and she asks about consent, and she's like, "Do you have that here?" And that was one of the moments I was just on the floor laughing because again, it's just such a White Lotus thing with the dialogue there. But so she connects with this guy, Pornchai, and they talk about starting a business together and doing things, and then she ends up just leaving him at the end and going off with her son and taking the money, which directly mirrors what Tanya did with her in season 1, because they and like that's exactly what Tanya does, and because they talked about also like starting something together, and then Tanya ends up going off, getting rich, and leaves her behind. So it was fascinating to see Belinda come full circle in that respect.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, they hooked up once and they talked about it. They didn't plan it.
That's
what I mean?
That's what I feel like, because people were saying like, "Oh, that's kind of cruel." To like, I'm like, okay, think about it. They had just met, and sure, he seems like a nice guy, and like, they may end up talking again or something. But I agree. I was like, I would not be that harsh on her in this scenario because they just met. She's just like loaded with this massive amount of money.
She wants to get away from the freaking murderer.
Yes. So. Her priority there is get her and her son to safety, leave all this behind, and then she can, maybe talk with him at a later time. But I agree. I was like, I really don't, it's not like she's leaving behind her boyfriend of 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, and they had all these plans together. It was a hookup.
Yeah, it was exactly. So I really wasn't that hard. I liked the symmetry there with, again, with like her and Tanya having that as well. But again, I didn't think less of Belinda just because she chose to get out of there as soon as she had the money. Because, I mean, realistically, I think that's what most of us would do in that scenario. I mean, she deserves to go and live her life and have some safety for a while and then, figure out what's next. But, when there are bodies all over and Gary Gregg, I call him Gary Gregg because he changes his name, to once he goes kind of into hiding over here in Thailand. But she knows how dangerous he is. And, the tension is building up in that finale of like, is she going to get the money? Is she not? Is he going to like find her and threaten her? What's going to happen here? So when she does get it and has the opportunity to leave, heck, I would absolutely do that too,
You would never see me again.
No.
If I ever disappeared, I got $5 million. You would just never see me, hear from me ever again.
And I like to say, I'm not saying it's in a moral superiority sense, but I like to think I would do something good with if I had anywhere near that much money. Like I would definitely use to live like, set up security and comfort for like me and my family. But then, I would give like plenty to charities and stuff. So, but if I was anywhere near a murderer and stuff, I would get away from them first. I mean, that's just, I think, logical. But, but yeah. And then, yeah, I don't know that like, it's hard for a show like this to really find any characters relatable necessarily, or ones that really resonate with you. Like, oh, I see myself in this person. But I think it's more looking at, okay, what kind of spiritual journeys do they go on? And, what stands out about that? And I think here it was the Ratcliffe family, particularly the father, how he goes from so terrified of what financial ruin would do to him and his family that he just considers ending it all right then and there, to this like moment at the end where he says, okay, we're going to make it through this. And again, it is more like, I don't take this moment as a complete, like, like a really cheesy, like over the top of, like they're going to be okay kind of thing. It's more, they live in such a different plane of reality that they really don't know he doesn't know what's going to happen for them. And, once he drops the bombshell that they're about to lose everything, I think they will not know what to do with themselves at first. And there will be massive tension. And because like I said, earlier in the episode, he talks about how like they've never had to endure suffering. They've never had trauma. I'm like, really? Like these guys, I mean, they're like, the parents are probably like in their like 60s. And then the kids are Saxon's like probably late 20s, early 30s. And then Piper just finished college. Lachlan is, about to start college. For none of them to have experienced any kind of trauma, I'm like, you guys just live in such another plane of reality. But nonetheless, he does have this spiritual element that he discovers there a little bit where he's trying to imagine what it would be like without enormous material wealth and go from there. So it was really interesting. I mean, this show is very satirical, so it's not like it's trying to be extremely profound in that sense, but I think there was enough of an exploration that was compelling from a spiritual lens.
I just don't understand, obviously. And so pretty much the crime he did was money. He works in finance and he did money laundering. Big no. But I'm like, okay, sir, you do something illegal. You don't have an offshore account. You don't have a go back. You're already in Thailand. You're already in Thailand. Yeah. You're already escaped. Like you don't have an offshore account. And then like you had a heads up because he was like, your partner's about to flip or he's about to tell you. So you literally had at least 24 hours before your account froze to move money in an offshore account or to do something. But I'm like, what?
That was bizarre there. And I mean, like, yeah, obviously a crime, like, especially working in finance like he is. But it's like, okay, he didn't commit murder. It's not like he's going to, be in prison the rest of his life. I mean, he is, wealthy, upper class, like the big guy. But I had that thought too. I was like, does he not just move it somewhere else or, figure something out there? So I think I don't know if it was just he panicked so much in the moment and was so afraid to tell his wife that like, and anyone that could have given him practical advice maybe. Or probably Saxon would have recommended that too. The fact that he withheld it from him when he works for the same company and probably could have said something like that, like, move it to a different account, or at least leave some there, and then we'll figure it out. But
Like transfer it, like
weird.
go ahead and transfer it into like your son's name or something like that. Or like
Right.
go ahead and do like a quick deeds, like go ahead and do a quick deeds claim or something like that and transfer your house into your son's name, because like then it's not your assets anymore. They can't seize it. And I'm like, sir, I only have an MBA. And I'm like, I've thought of like, granted, number one, don't break the law. But if you're going to do it better, in my opinion.
Yeah. That advice, yeah, great one. So for systematic geekologists, if you're gonna break the law, do it smart.
Yeah, just do it better. In this case scenario, on TV in a fiction setting, do not do it in real life, please.
Well, and like it sounded like the company was just gonna crash and burn too, it wasn't. But when it was really like you said, just like okay, his screw up and everything. Like put it in Saxon thing. I don't know. That was interesting, but I did find like the spiritual journey interesting there, and again going back to Piper, like how it is a complete reverse. Like you think, oh, at first he's going to be the one to get away and actually kind of embrace more Eastern spiritual philosophies of letting go of material wealth, and then she is not that person at all. Like I mean, you hate her, but it just also works from a storytelling perspective so well. So I did like that, but yeah, it was, I don't know, anything else about just like, I mean, there was also that scene between the three women where they're kind of just like get into how Kate has started to like going to church with her husband. And so like, she references that a few times. What do you think kind of just in general of any of those moments, or how they address religion and spirituality? Like I think what I like is they do it in kind of a like Mike White is never trying to say anything definitively about like, oh, this is the right way or the wrong way, but just kind of like examining different worldviews. And so that's kind of what it stood out to me. But are there any scenes like that stuck out to you?
No, I mean, I could see how it's crazy. It's three childhood friends and they each chose different paths. So one became an actress, and so she married a Hollywood star, and so you can tell she's super vain. And as they got into like fights, and like they kind of like did like a little catty like exposed each other, but they made up at the end. But like it was like, you've always been this way. You flirted with so and so's husband at my wedding, well then boyfriend, and stuff like that. And then you had one who just got married, and so she's just and she's the church lady, and so they go to church and they do this and they just have the perfect life. So she's definitely expounding on how great her life is. And I'm like, well, for anyone who's been married longer than probably like 6 months, marriage is not all rainbows, but all she has to talk about is rainbows. And then you have the single mom who just can't make the right choice. Like her career is not great. Her relationship with the childhood's not great and stuff like that. So I appreciate the different areas of life. Like they did a good job, like kind of like, even though it's a rich place, like you still had so many people from different backgrounds and not just rich background, like the single mom who lost a job and like the worker who's there for training. So I appreciated that. But I mean, nothing like resonated where I had like an epiphany. I'm like, man, that's a great thought. Or wow, like I'm really glad that they focused on this in this show. I was just kind of like, get to killing people.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think it was an interesting angle to go with the more spiritual themes here, but I don't think it was like I haven't watched it yet, but Mike White also did a short-lived show with Laura Dern years ago called Enlightenment, which is next on my watch list, especially now that this season White Lotus is over. But people rave about that one and how that really is a more deep, insightful look at spirituality and religion. So I do want to check that out. I think this one didn't have anything like in this season profound to say about anything like spiritual, but I mean, there were themes there, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, I'm interested in like, okay, how is the murder mystery plot gonna play out? I like just the overt, satirical elements of the show, the humor. Like I said, I mean, Parker Posey had just some like laugh out loud moments. And several other characters are just, I mean, whether it's the facial expressions, the dialogue, it's just so funny throughout. This season was a little darker, but seasons 1 and 2, especially, you're laughing pretty hysterically. At least I was in a lot of instances. So those are more the main draws for me. But there is still a spiritual angle here, and particularly how it examines like the impact of wealth. And I don't think it's a show that says like, oh, having money is instantly bad, and all rich people suck. Like, it's certainly a critique of social divides and classes, and a satire, but it also gives nuance to characters from different backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses. So I think that's where it's really more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, well, is there anything else about the show that either positive or negative that you just want to talk about, or why you would recommend it to someone? Because I did find it when we were talking about this, because we were trying to pick a topic before the Hey Arnold episode, and like and when I think we had just like, after we had picked that, I forget if I brought up White Lotus or something, and you're like, oh, we should do an episode on that. I was actually surprised too, because I know you're a huge anime fan, and like that's kind of your niche. So this was a really interesting one that I know it's pop culture zeitgeist, but
right. Well, and I think I was like only episode 1 or 2 in, so I wasn't really like knowledgeable. Like when I went, that's why we didn't go to White Lotus automatically.
Sure.
When we did that, but. I mean, I would say give it a watch if you don't mind suspense and you like trying to figure out what like kind of like who's gonna die. Like honestly, I can say, and I like that we didn't share who actually died of the thing, so we left it a little like elusive, because like that's kind of what White Lotus is, because there's still, even though it ended and who dies, you still don't know how it ends for like really anyone, if you think about it.
Right.
Like with the woman, like if her business or how the family's going to recover, or, like how the friends are going to, like, are they going to stay friends? So you really just don't know how it's ending, and you don't know who died. So I kind of love that. But yeah, I say watch it. I'm bad at double screen syndrome. So when I watched it, like I played matching games on my phone.
Okay.
So like it didn't have my full attention, but like I don't regret watching it.
Interesting you said, because like that's one of the things this is a show where I have I can't distract myself with anything else with, like I have to be fully in tune on it. So there are other shows like that I can be looking at my phone, or like, especially if it's like a sitcom or something that I've seen a million times. But this is one that actually like does demand my full attention. So it's interesting you say that. Like, not a criticism. I just want to like, it's just like
different preferences.
Right. And I do think it is a show that is really fun to watch with people. I watch a lot of TV just on my own. And I usually go, to movie theaters with people. But like this is one, if you do have someone you can watch it with, it is really entertaining too, because you can. It's fun to speculate with the other person, like, oh, who do you think is going to die, or what do you think is going to happen between these characters, or whatever. It's fun to build off each other, and also to react to some of the most shocking, funny, and unsettling moments throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very cool.
Yeah, but if you guys watch White Lotus, let us know. Are you happy with the ending? I mean, I'm content with the ending. Like, husband was not content. I was very content.
I was content in some ways. Like, I think with the Rattlers, I wanted a little more, like, but it also, I mean, I saw a bunch of like posts on Blue Sky saying, oh, you could just make a whole spin-off show of just that family and like examining how they adjust to the aftermath. But then it would be a very different show, because then it wouldn't be like White Lotus. It would, because that would be them in the, in their daily lives. But yeah,
my prediction. So I guess you're going to know who doesn't die, but you don't know if they all survived. Is like the family is going to be the ones in season 4, but they're going to end up working at like a White Lotus, or like kind of like doing the escape, or being maybe the help or something like that, to try and, something like that. So that's my prediction. We're going to see them again, but they're going to like kind of be down a few pegs society, whether like, like maybe the mom is a housekeeper now, like in another White Lotus or something like that, because they can't afford the luxury. So that's my prediction. We'll see if I'm right.
Ooh, that would be a really interesting dynamic, because that's something they haven't really done before, of like having someone go from, rich to have it all to, oh, now they're on the, working class end of the spectrum. And how do they adjust to that? That would actually be really interesting and funny. And can say. I mean, the family is just wild and, for the most part, extremely unlikable. But nonetheless, like, you're still enamored with them. And I would love to see Parker Posey more, because she is just having the time of her life playing this role and delivers so much perfect comedic timing that I would love to see more. So that, I think, is a great idea. Maybe if Mike White happens to come across this podcast among the millions of others that are talking about the show, maybe he'll take your idea. That would be cool.
Maybe. That'd be great. I want royalties. $5 million, please, if you take my idea.
Fair. I think that's an absolutely fair request. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, yeah, so definitely go watch White Lotus. Let us know what you think of it. Liz, do you have any other recommendation, either related to this topic or something completely different? Doesn't have to be related.
The one other show a few other shows I've seen outside of anime, I guess. I also finished Severance season 2 because my husband made me watch it. So I guess you can go watch that season 1 and 2 of Severance.
Severance is absolutely brilliant. And we actually just put an episode out reviewing the first 2 seasons, and so excellent recommendation there. Mine would be, if you are, kind of wanted something in the same vein-ish as White Lotus. This is more like straight up murder mystery, but one I really enjoyed. They came out last year on Netflix, called The Perfect Couple, with Nicole Kidman. I really enjoyed that one. It also, deals with wealth and class, and is a big murder mystery. It was a lot of fun. It was a limited series. I don't know if they are going to make more seasons or not. I think I heard something they might, but I don't know. But even if they don't, I think it works as a very self-contained story. So I did enjoy that. The Perfect Couple on Netflix.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Liz, this was a blast. Thanks so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for suggesting this episode.
Absolutely. And also for everyone out there, please support us on Patreon. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a review on YouTube for any episodes there, because Will promises to either frolic through a field of flowers or do something to that extent if we get enough likes on any one video. So we appreciate all your support. We appreciate our Patreons. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
Bye-bye.
Hey friends, your pal Will Rose here. Sometimes I ask myself, have you ever wondered how you can support Systematic Geekology? Yes, I have. And well, if you're like me, you want Systematic Geekology to continue to grow and thrive. And you can do that by joining Patreon for as little as $3 a month. As a patron, you get bonus episodes. We answer bonus questions that our patrons get to hear. We have special shout outs. We have certain episodes that the patrons pick. So you help us create and curate the content that we put out for the world to hear. You even get free merch. And when I say that we're a worldwide podcast, that I'm not being hyperbolic. Somebody told me that we have over 20,000 subscribers from all over the world, and just half of those subscribers join Patreon for $3 a month. We would be set on keeping moving forward with the tech that we need to have the quality of podcast that we want our hearers to experience. And it'll help us get to certain events and conventions so that we can see you face to face and geek out with you in person. And let me just share that there's no shame, no guilt. If you can't join Patreon at this point, that's okay. That's okay. Just keep listening, keep sharing, keep liking, because yes, we're proud of what we're doing at Systematic Geekology. And friends, guess what? You can subscribe to Patreon for free to receive one extra bonus episode a month via the Patreon or Spotify app. That is fantastic. And we're glad that you're a part of it.
Hello there, listener. Thanks for listening. This is Evan Garcia. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We just wanted to come in and remind you that this episode is part of a bigger network of podcasts called the Anazao Podcast Network. We have great shows like the Whole Church Podcast, Kung Fu Pizza Party, and the homily with Pastor Chill Will. Chill Will, the podcast has sermons from our host, Pastor Will. Great sermons every time. The Kung Fu Pizza Party is Brandon Knight showing his expertise and his passion for everything Kung Fu films. And he dispenses a bunch of wisdom. Great show. And the Whole Church podcast, where Josh and TJ interview people from different denominations and church traditions to pursue greater church unity. It's a great podcast to see what other denominations are included. And we just want to say thank you so much for listening. See you next time.